Hello, everyone. I'm going to give it a second till a few more people join. It is just at the very top of the hour. Um, I am Nancy Harrington, and I'm here with my sister and partner, Amy Harrington, and our guest, Selene Luna, and we're so excited. I'm going to just give it one more minute before we start. I see that Shirley is here and Analia is here. Thanks for joining us. Um, all right. I guess I'll get started. We're so excited to be hosting our very first LinkedIn audio event in collaboration with Amigos. We want to thank Denai Escanavarino and Dolly Rivera for inviting us to do this with them. And we also want to thank Julie DeLucca-Collins, who gave us the initial introduction to Denai and Dolly. We are thrilled to get to know all of you in the Amigos community and introduce you to the amazing women in our Passionistas community. We know that there will be so much opportunity for connection and collaboration among all of us, and we can't wait to see what comes out of this beautiful collaboration.
So I'm Amy. I'm Nancy's sister, as she said, and it might get a little confusing because my profile says Amy and Nancy Harrington because we share everything in an attempt to avoid sibling rivalry. We go by the royal we when we're doing our business stuff. So whenever you see Amy and Nancy talking, that's me. But we wanted to say that we're one of the things we're most excited about with this collaboration with Amigos is getting to know all of you. So we'd love for you to drop comments for us and for Selene throughout the conversation. Toward the end of the chat with Selene, we're going to open it up so that people can raise their hands and they can come up onto the stage and ask any questions to Selene. She's excited to talk to all of you and get to know you. She has had an amazing career and an incredible life, and she has so much insight on so many things that we know you're going to have lots of great questions for her. So don't be shy and feel free to come up and chat with her later on. And in the meantime, just leave comments for us. To do that, in case you don't know, because I think a lot of us are learning LinkedIn audio together, you'll see at the top of the window that there are three dots. And if you click on the three dots, you can click on View Event Details, and that will bring up the window that has the event details, but also a section that says Comments. So that's where you can drop comments to us and Selene and each other along the way. So please interact with us as much as you like. We're excited to get to know you all.
Thanks, Amy. Without further ado, we would like to introduce to you our very special guest, Selene Luna. Um, Besides being a dear friend, Selene is an actress, and she plays Soledad on FX's Mayans MC, which, if you have not watched, you need to start watching right now so you can catch up in time for the next season, which they start filming soon. And if you have watched it, then you know how amazing she is on the show. She's also the voice of Tia Rosita in Disney's Pixar's Academy Award and Golden Globe Awards winner Coco. And she recently appeared in the Hulu Halloween special, Halloween Dragstravaganza. I knew I was going to mess up that word. Selene is an established presence in Hollywood with multiple roles in movies and TV shows such as Celebrity Wife Swap, Lionsgate's My Bloody Valentine 3D, and Margaret Cho's The Cho Show. And she broke ground as a featured burlesque dancer in 5 national tours of the undisputed queen of burlesque, Dita Von Teese. Her most celebrated stand-up comedy credit has been opening for several of Margaret Cho's national tours, and she took to Washington, D.C. by meeting with legislators like Representative Maxine Waters at the 2019 Conference on Independent Living to advocate for disability rights. She also spoke at a rally on Capitol Hill alongside Senator Chuck Schumer. This September, Selene spoke at the Power Passionistas 2022, a 3-day virtual event focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the issues important to women. So we are so excited to have this conversation with Selene, and so you can all get to know her a little bit more. So welcome, Selene.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm always so thrilled to have a chat with Amy and Nancy, my dear friends. Thank you for the lovely intro. And I'm also looking forward to getting to know the listeners, and I'd love to chat with you guys as well.
We'd like to start by asking you the question that we pose to our audience as well, which is what's the one thing you're most passionate about?
The one thing I'm most passionate about is autonomy, because I believe that independence and self reliance uh, really is the most dignified way to live. Just to give you some background, for those of you who aren't familiar with me, I'm a person with a disability. I'm a little person. I stand at 3 feet 9 inches tall. So if you can just visualize that. So people like me, people with disabilities, navigate through a world where we are just not able to have equal access to the things that most people take for granted. And that creates a lot of reliance and dependence on others just for mere daily survival. And so that is why I'm very, very passionate about autonomy, because being able to do things on my own uh, without relying on somebody, it's just life changing. And that's something that I don't think most people even think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you've spoken at several of our events, and we've obviously had lots of, private conversations about your experiences throughout your life. But I think it's really important to give people context to talk about what your childhood was like, and especially as it relates to the education system, because I feel like you were given quite a disservice, as you were growing up in the school system here in Los Angeles. And I think that's kind of a really important perspective to share with people so they understand what those experiences were like.
Yes, I would love to share that. And and even though I speak on this topic a lot, it's so close to home, and I still sometimes get a little wordy and I have a hard time navigating through it. So if go on the deep end, please stop me, rein me in. It's just so personal that it's really hard to separate myself from it. But ultimately, people with disabilities have no autonomy, meaning we have no privacy in society. Um, we don't really have the ability, in most cases, in most situations, to make decisions for ourselves. Everything is decided for you from the minute that you were born. This is if you're born with a disability. So what so anyway, going back to my childhood and my lack of education in the LA school system, the it was the public school system in Los Angeles where I grew up. um, I'm a I grew up in the 70s, and we're now in 2022, and there are children with disabilities still to this day facing the exact same things I faced in the 70s in the school system. So, for example, back in the day, I mean, this part has changed a little bit, but back in the day, the school system insisted on having me in what they called special ed classes. Now, back then, special ed just basically meant it was a pretty much a prison cell for any child with a disability, and they were kept out of sight from the general population, and you're just really babysat all day long and not really given an education. But my parents fought tooth and nail, and they did not go for that because you know they knew I had the intellect. It had the school system decision to put me in special ed had nothing to do with my IQ or my intellectual ability. It was just based on my physical disability, which had nothing to do with my intellectual potential. And so my parents fought to make sure I was integrated into the standard school system, and which I was. I never once sat in a special ed class, and my heart breaks for those kids who were forced to, but I'm very grateful that my parents did everything they could to make sure I didn't fall through those cracks. Now, but the the additional battle though was that once I was integrated into the standard classroom, system. Even though I was sitting in those classes, I still was not getting the same education as my peers in the classroom because of my disability. Teachers, I don't know why, they were just overwhelmed having me in there. I mean, I was just sitting there waiting to learn with all the other children, but I was often overlooked, ignored, and really, and an example I'd given in the past when speaking with the Passionistas, um, something that's really ingrained in my mind that I'll never forget. I was in high school in 10th grade, and one of the reasons I don't have any education on literature or the classics that you really learn in 10th grade is that my English teacher pulled me aside and told me that I'm never going to need to learn any of this literature, that people like me don't need these skills or education. So for the entire year, had me sit next to her literally like a pet. And I was not given any homework assignments. I was told to not read anything because I wasn't going to need it because people like me don't need an education. Um, so that's just one jarring example that stands out in my mind. Also, in 11th grade, that's usually when a high school junior goes to meet with a high school counselor to figure out, your plan after graduating high school. Well, I went to my guidance counselor and he told me to forget about college because college was not a place for people like me. And higher learning was not a place for people like me. So that's kind of I gave you the most, I guess, the freshest examples in my mind, but this happened throughout my entire education from like kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, where I barely graduated, barely literate. It's amazing I function today. And so I had to spend the most of my 20s struggling to survive because physically I couldn't just go get any job, and I didn't have the education to get a non-labor job. So most of my young adult life was an extreme struggle in poverty. And although this is a very personal individual story, but it's not unique at all within the disabled community. So regardless of what the specific disability is, what hinders our progress in society is not our disability, but is the non-disabled perspective towards disabled people. And so the disability is hardly ever the issue. It's the attitudes towards us. So there's a long-winded answer. Sorry.
It's an amazing answer, and every time I hear your story, my heart just breaks, and I never really know what to say to follow it up. But I guess one of the questions is, you said that it's changed somewhat, but not totally. So do you know what is the current state of the education system for kids with disabilities now? Like, how has it changed? What progress have we made, and what do we still have left to do?
Well, and I'll be full disclosure. I don't have all the, statistics and information, but from what I've gathered in my personal involvement in activism, there has definitely been progress. I mean, the fact that we're even talking about this on LinkedIn shows progress. So there is progress in awareness and dialogue starting to happen, but it's absolutely not enough. But another added layer to this issue is that there's progress for children with disabilities who are in uh, m- more socioeconomic situations that have more advantages, that have educated parents, that are, I'm gonna just put it bluntly, that are in a position of privilege versus children who come from marginalized communities where their disability, that's just another layer, it but their families are dealing with social injustice, economic and education inequalities. So, people of color is, those are the communities that are still suffering the adversity that I suffered in the 70s. So there is progress, but within certain communities, not, there's a lot of inside, inequalities within disability. Not every disabled child gets the same opportunities as, a child with a disability who is in a more socioeconomic situation that's upwardly mobile. I'm trying to tread gently with my wording because I don't necessarily have the eloquence all the time, but I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah, and I think, I think it's fair to say it just straightforwardly, like there are people who have a certain level of privilege because of their race and economy, and that's something that's the playing field still has not been leveled. And so, and I know you talk a lot about kind of intersectionality in that regard from, from your personal background coming from outside of the United States and the impact that had on the fact that you had the disability issue in conjunction with being from another place. And I think we can all agree that that has not changed enough in all this time. So what are, and I want to talk a bit about your career too, but since we're on this topic, you have become an activist, and I know you say often that it's not something that you are, enjoy doing. It's something you feel you need to do. So talk about the activism that you do and some of the work that, the organization you're involved with and the good work you're doing out there right now.
Well, thank you. And I guess that's my biggest gripe that Amy and Nancy have heard me say so many times. It's like I feel like I'm a reluctant activist. The thing with being an activist for disability rights, it's like you're just kind of forced to do it. I have to sound the alarm for people to listen or to try to motivate change or inspire change, because if I remain quiet, and it's not just me, there's a ton of us, if we remain quiet, we'll continue to be walked all over by society. And so, again, I'm a reluctant activist because I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy spending my time begging people to listen, begging people to look at statistics, like trying to convince the non disabled society that allowing us equal access to employment and education is not doing us a favor. It's in fact civil rights that we're also entitled to. And so it's very upsetting that we have to advocate what should just automatically be available to everybody. So anyway, so that's that. But I have the personality and the platform to do it. So I'm happy to do it, and I couldn't live with myself if I didn't, because nothing puts more fire in my belly than speaking up for unfairness and speaking up for those who can't speak up for themselves. And so I have really found a voice for myself by working with SCRS. That is an organization that I'm on the board of directors. They are Southern California Resource for Independent Living. Um, this is a organization that services people with disabilities. The organization's mission is that each person with a disability is unique and has the same civil rights as people who do not. So, centers for independent living were created to be run by and for people with disabilities. And so they offer support, advocacy, and information on empowerment in the attainment of independence from a peer viewpoint. And that's one of the biggest problems, too, in the advocacy world for disability. It's a lot of organizations are run by people. Organizations for disability are run by people who do not have a disability, and So could you imagine, like, a, um, a a man being the head of a feminist organization? you know, that wouldn't fly in a million years. But in the disability community, it's actually kind of standard. So this is why I'm involved with this organization, because from the very top, it's our CEO. I mean, everybody, from the top executives are individuals with disabilities. So there is no greater voice, no more relating voice, and no more passionate voice. And the ultimate goal is to make sure that young children, young adults transitioning from high school into the real world have access to higher education and economic equality.
That's so tremendous. So tell us a little bit more about some of the challenges that these people that you're talking about in this organization face, some of the challenges you faced trying to gain an independent life so that we can all really sort of visualize, because I think part of the problem is we don't know what we don't know. Like Amy and I have been so educated in our conversations with you about things that just honestly never occurred to us as people living in an able-bodied life. So tell us a few of the things that you and other people struggle with to gain independence.
Okay, well, first and foremost, the number one thing is equal access to education and being provided the tools uh, to make sure we're able to attain the same education as everyone else. And so, we need a little extra help with devices, teachers who are properly trained to deal with a diverse population of students. Also, support from the actual school system to that's ultimately it, support from the school system to make sure each child with a disability not only has access to the same education as everyone else, but is provided with the necessary tools that allows them in success in education without having to navigate some like a burdens. I mean, like, for me, for example, I couldn't reach the desk, and I was given throughout my entire 12 years of schooling, I was given booster seats from Denny's restaurant to reach the desk. Um, they were so uncomfortable and so slippery, and they used to hurt my hips. So I, when a child is sitting in a chair trying to learn, they're not sitting there in pain and worried that they're going to slip out of the seat. I'm just talking about real basic stuff. So just give us the tools so that we can focus on studying like everyone else. And then also, you know, then then it comes to the real world, employment. That is the biggest issue too. It's like, um, we definitely need to not just talk about what it means to be an inclusive employer. You have to actually make accommodations in your business. And so many young people who are just ready and skilled and dying to work are not even given the opportunity, because as soon as the employer sees them, they instantly think, oh God, this is going to be a burden. I'm going to have to spend money. When statistically, it's been proven that hiring an individual with a disability actually saves you money and actually makes your company more money. And uh, employees with disabilities have the lowest rates of workers' comp claims. So, society really has it backwards. And when, society, employers, and corporations need to stop seeing individuals with disabilities as a financial burden they have to accommodate when it's actually an economic gain. But that's part of the ableist culture we live in. You don't know what you don't know because it's never been put out there. People have no idea about this. And once uh, an individual with a disability has economic independence, then they have the money to live independently and not have to turn to social services to for just, the basic things, and which then saves the state a bunch of money. So it all comes down to education equality, because that sets you up for economic success in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people aren't really aware of the sub minimum wage issue and how that continues to impact people with disabilities. So can you talk a bit about that?
Yes, and that's another. Actually, I should have started with that, but something a lot of people are not aware of, and I wasn't either for most of my life. Um, there's a thing called sub minimum wage, which is a law in the United States that allows employers to pay an employee with a disability as low as 22 cents an hour. It's seen as a charitable cause. And so the person with the disability could be doing the same job as anyone else, but legally you're allowed to pay them as low as 22 cents an hour. Now, that's an archaic law, and it's been banned in most states. However, it is still legal in 13 states and was only recently taken off the books in the state of California. Like, I can't remember the exact year, but it was something as recent as like 5 years ago or something. Um, so, so we are put into this situation of forced systemic poverty. It's like a person with a disability has one roadblock after the next, and these are legal. And the biggest culprit in the country that uses this, that takes advantage of the sub minimum wage law, is Goodwill Industries. So the employees, the disabled employees that they hire to, stock the store, do all the behind the scenes warehouse stuff, those guys are earning like 22 cents an hour. And I'm sure it varies by location depending on the state, but they are the biggest culprit. And so, as much as I love thrift shopping, I will not shop at the Goodwill.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just mind blowing that we get away with that. It's just
It is, and and Nancy and Amy have heard me go off on this, but that's kind of one of the issues I have with feminism. You know, uh, in the feminist movement, one of the number one priorities is getting equal pay for women, and but why why aren't the same leaders in the feminist movement also fighting for equal pay for disabled women? Are they even aware of this?
I was just going to say again, I think it's you don't know what you don't know. I think,
Yeah.
until you made us aware of this, we didn't know. And so I
Yeah.
think I think that's why we do what we do in the Passionistas, is that we try to bring these various communities together so you learn about each other's struggles, because
Yeah.
we're all in our little bubble with our own problems and not realizing how how other people are dealing with the same issues in a different way. So
Absolutely. And I'm sorry to cut you off, but I have to interject to be fair. I know I sound very impassioned when I talk about this, and it's because of my own personal struggles with being forced into poverty, but I also I absolutely empathize that you don't know what you don't know. I mean, there's so much that I don't know about, that I haven't started screaming about yet, but once I learn about it, I will. So just to be fair, I know I have this, like, I know I have a contentious feeling towards, the feminist movement and pay equality, because it's hit me so personally, and I know that's not fair to, the general movement. I am a feminist and very proud of it, but, it's like, sisters, we need to wake up.
I also think it goes back to what you started off saying, Selene, is like, if we don't talk about it, then people aren't going to get educated, and so it's just any opportunity any of us have, any of us that are here listening have, to just share one piece of information that they learned today with other people, then we're on the right track of educating other people. Because I think people from all marginalized communities feel this way, like, it's not up to you to educate all of us on disability rights. But hopefully it will spark an interest in anybody that's listening and the people that we share this information with for us to educate ourselves more.
Yeah, I agree. And and I need it too. I need to learn from other people as well. And and becoming involved with the disabled community just only in recent years, I have learned I have learned so much, and I also learned that I need to be more aware of other communities. And but and not to shift gears, but I just want to say that I felt it was very important also for me to come on this program with you guys today, because I'm not your typical LinkedIn audience. I only just created a profile so I could join you guys today. LinkedIn is not in my career path. It's not part of you know my industry. It's not through LinkedIn. However, this is the business world, and I'm hoping to reach employers out there to just kind of think twice. The next time they consider an applicant with a disability, it's like, so that's all. I just really want to thank the business community for taking the time to hear me out and being open to learn something new about the possibilities of what you can do within your own industry.
Absolutely, it's so important. I'm glad you said that because it's so important that the business community hears and understands about how they can improve the quality of life for their disabled employees. And I think the other thing that I always like to bring up when we're talking about people living with disabilities is, if nothing else, do something for selfish reasons, because
Hmm.
chances are at some point in our lives we are all going to be disabled. There are so many disability community stretches across many, 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 many different kinds of of uh, of abilities. I
Yeah.
mean, so we all might end up someday in a wheelchair, or
Hmm.
with hearing loss, or so many things. So we all need to be educated to help our fellow man, but if nothing else, do it for selfish reasons, so that when you come up against it yourself, you'll know what's going on.
Exactly, and that's a great point. Thank you. And gosh, I might forgive me because I might have the statistic wrong, but it's my understanding that that 80% of the population will become disabled at some point in their lives, and that's if you were not born disabled. So, it's like this helps everybody, really.
Let's switch gears a little bit.
Hmm.
Let's talk about the fun stuff. Let's
I'd
talk
love to.
let's talk about your career.
Hmm.
So, um, we've talked a little bit about the fact that you actually um, have another marginalized, you're from a marginalized community, and the fact that you're Latinx, and in Hollywood, Latinx underrepresentation is still so disproportionate
Hmm.
and getting slightly better. But you have been involved in two amazing projects that really have bolstered the Latinx representation in TV and film. One of which was Coco, the beautiful Disney movie, and the
Hmm.
other is your current work on Mayans MC. So, talk about how you personally have felt the impact of being involved with these two amazing projects.
Thank you. It's still mind blowing to me. Um, what really tipped things for me was getting a role for on Disney Pixar's Coco, because that was the first major Hollywood studio film in history to have an all Latino cast. And not only being an actor with a disability, but that aside, um, I never in my wildest dreams thought I would see, an American film with all Latino actors. I mean, like, and not just that. but representing my culture, I'm Mexican, representing my culture in the most beautiful, dignified, respectful way. Like I don't recall that ever happening, and I might be wrong. I'm sure there's something out there, but I really don't think there is. And so that was elating to me. That because I had struggled for 20 something years in the business of pursuing acting, and I just it was just one of those things that was so validating that I did not throw in the towel. It was so confirming. It's like, wow, just it's a numbers game. Do not throw in the towel. Things do change. Society does progress, and it gave me such unbelievable hope for the future. Just one simple, movie, just gave me hope for an entire future. And so that really kept me going. And then a few years later, then Mayans MC came along, and that has been really the greatest blessing of my career. And again, validating once again to not give up, do not throw in the towel. It's just the minute you lose hope or feel defeated, then it's all over. It's instantly over for you. But if you just do the work, just keep going and have faith that there are creators out there who have the same passion that you have, it will come together. And just a little background for those of you who are not familiar with Mayans MC. Uh, Mayans MC is a spin-off of Sons of Anarchy. So it's a TV crime drama about a Mexican motorcycle club gang. And so it's a pretty intense, serious drama. And so not only is it kind of Latino driven casting, but then they turn around and cast me. I mean, I not only am I a Mexican immigrant, I'm a woman and I'm a little person. Being on this show, the role that they created for me on this show is the first time in television history that there is a dignified, dramatic role for a brown little person. And so it's groundbreaking. And so both of these shows combined have been very fulfilling for me on a deep soul, very soulful level. It just and it gives me hope for the future, knowing that these people are out there fighting to create this level of inclusivity.
And I will say Mayans is addictive. We did not watch it before we found out Selene was going to be on it, so we binge watched the seasons that before she got on, and if you haven't seen it, you have to watch it. And her performance is unbelievable. So I highly recommend it to everybody. Before I ask my next question, I just wanted to say we would love for all of you to feel free to raise your hand and come up to the stage and chat with Selene. Ask her any questions you have, whether that's about her career or about her activism or her experiences. Please, we want you to feel like you're a part of this conversation. So if you raise your hand, we'll include you in the chat with Selene. Selene, I think the other part of your career that is so awesome is your stand up, and I love how you came to become a stand up comedian. Do you mind telling us about that, and how Margaret helped you come to the realization that that was maybe something you should explore?
Yeah, thank you. I would love to share it because it gives me an opportunity to talk about how wonderful Margaret Cho is. She's a very she's very dear and near to me. And so Margaret Cho, if I mean, she's a household name, but if you're not familiar, she is a trailblazer in the stand-up comedy world, and she's really one of the first female comics that truly broke ground. And I mean, before I ever knew her, I used to watch her stand-up comedy specials and just be so inspired and amazed by her. And she's a Korean woman, and so I'd never seen a woman of color taking the stage the way she did. And so eventually, through the business we met, and we became good friends, and she became my mentor for a while. And so she really, because being who she is, she really understood what it was like to be a marginalized woman. I mean, her parents are immigrants, they are Korean. And so she understood and related to my Mexican immigrant family story. We have a lot in common in that way. And so she always had an ability to understand what I was going through. And many years ago, we were working on her TV show, and she pulled me aside and she said, you got to really try stand up, because in stand up comedy, nobody cares what you look like as long as you can make them laugh. And then suddenly a light bulb went on. I was like, oh my God, that's right. Because I was such a frustrated actor, feeling really degraded by Hollywood, because as a little person, the only audition opportunities I would get were just being creatures. In Hollywood, little people in general are not viewed as human beings. I mean, can you, other than Peter Dinklage, can you name a little person who was not playing a non-human creature on television or film? We're always some kind of monster or some kind of magical creature or something really faceless and voiceless. It's never just a human being. And so that was what I was struggling with. I felt that, why can't I be an artist like everyone else? Like, why not? I didn't understand that. So she said, go to stand-up comedy. That's where you control the narrative, and people will see you on your terms. And so I did that. And so with her mentoring, I was able to develop a stand-up comedy career for a while. And I learned a lot, and it really helped me a lot. And so it was a great opportunity that I really got to explore as an artist. And I found my voice, which now I see the payoff. It made me a better dramatic TV actor, having all that stand up experience. And so I'm doing what I love, and I'm doing what I always wanted to do.
How did it make you a better TV actor?
I think on television, it's it's a complicated kind of animal. Uh, Working on sets, I believe, requires a lot of confidence. And to be clear, not arrogance, but confidence. You have to be, because there's a lot of pressure, and you have to be confident enough to not lose focus. You have to be laser focused and considerate of everything that's happening around you. There are like 10 million moving parts all at once. And, there's 100 people on set doing a different job while you're trying to deliver like a crying scene. And so you have to be able to stand still and remain measured and remain focused and just know that you are there for your job, and you have to execute this one particular job because an entire team is counting on you. So I'm not sure if that makes any sense, if it's translating to the non-showbiz business world, but stand-up comedy taught me focus, because if you can stand on stage in front of hundreds of people all by yourself with no one else up there and bomb. I mean, you bomb a lot when you're a comic. That's the only way you learn. And so I bombed a ton. And so bombing on stage just kind of it helped build my confidence, because I realized bombing didn't kill anybody. It didn't kill me. I'm fine. Tomorrow's going to go on, and and no one really cares. And so I think that's where I gained the confidence to up my game in dramatic acting.
So we have a few questions. Dolly, do you want to ask your question?
Hi.
Hi, it's so nice to meet you.
Likewise, Selene. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm learning a lot. So I have a question very specific to an intention that I have. I educate parents about bullying awareness and prevention, and one of the things that I've focused on is debunking certain stereotypes, specifically about people with disabilities because they're the ones that are, even worldwide, targeted the most.
Yes.
My question is there an educational program that you recommend that you've seen maybe at a school or anywhere that maybe I can use as a guide or as a resource for parents to use to educate themselves regarding people with disabilities?
You know, that is a fantastic question, and I'm embarrassed that I don't have an answer. However, I do suggest there. Well, you know, the organization that I work with, I want to suggest their website because you can contact them and they'll point you in the right direction. And the yeah, the website is, I'm gonna just name the organization and then give you the website. So the organization, and this is they cover Southern California. I'm not sure where you're located, but they are Southern California Resource Services for Independent Living. The website is scrs ilc.org.
And we put that in the chat so everybody can get to it easily.
That's fantastic. And before I forget, I also want to refer you to the National Council on Independent Living, which they do similar work as the Southern California Independent Living. And they're called NICL. It's the acronym for National Council on Independent Living. I believe their website is ncil.org, and they have a wealth of resources.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Selene.
Thank you for asking. I really appreciate that question.
We put Nickel in the comments as well. We put their website in case anybody
Oh,
wants it.
cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we have a question from Gloria. Gloria, do you want to unmute?
Oh, hello, Selene. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, Gloria.
I'm speaking from Sydney, Australia, so all the way.
Wow, far, far away.
Yes, and I just wanted to really echo what you said earlier. Thank you so much. I've just got a notebook writing like mad,
Mhm.
and I'm in the area of also advocating against racism.
Mhm.
So the things that you shared about feminist movement really spoke to me and it resonated because we talk about equality, but we often don't think about people with disability or people that are on the receiving end of racism.
Mhm.
And because we have got really great listeners, I wanted to echo that so people can hear that also people that are on the receiving end of racism are not factored into feminism movement and it continue to leave us behind. And it's really, really important that we bring those people into the fold. Otherwise, what we are doing is continually widening that gap for people like that. So I appreciate your work and I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gloria. I really appreciate that.
Agree with you, Gloria. It's one of our big missions in what we're doing is to make sure that everybody's included and all voices are included. Because just it doesn't make sense to us that anybody would be kept out of this movement. We're never going to get anywhere without each other. So we really appreciate that comment as well. Julie DeLucca-Collins, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for hosting this, to the Amigos and my friends, the Passionistas, Selene. It's such a pleasure to meet you. I've been a fan, and I really want to thank you for the work that you're doing. You know, I don't have a question. I do want to share some resources that I feel that are relevant to the conversation. Number one is that having been in education for over 20 years from the administrator at the State Department of Ed and the U.S. Department of Education, parents need to understand that you have the IDEA Act, which is going to provide you with the right resources. And there's a new guidance for those people who don't know. IDEA is the law that actually requires school districts to provide services to the individuals with disabilities. There's a new guidance that has been passed So this is going to help students to really be able to provide and avoid disparities in education overall. So you want to make sure that you go to the U.S. Department of Education website. There's a lot of resources in there because we have to be able to advocate for our children. I think that Dolly, as a parent educator, knows that we have to be able to be armed with the right information to go into the schools and to ask for the right resources. The other thing, too, is that, to your point, when one boat is lifted, all boats are lifted as well. And there's a lot of organizations out there that are doing really great work. I thank you for the advocacy that you're doing on behalf of individuals with disabilities. But this is why marginalized communities need to come together and really be able to support each other. I just learned the most baffling thing, that the Equal Rights Act for women was never passed. That's not something that was added to the Constitution. It was something that we wanted to have added. And all these years later, we as women are not looked by the Constitution as equal members with equal rights. And I think that when it comes to one group, if rights are denied to one group, then they're denied to others. And I just wanted to share that, because as we continue to advocate for ourselves, continue to go into every area to really be able to create a more equitable world for all of us. And I think that you're trailing the way in everything that you are doing by being in the front, in center, being yourself, and really be able to come into instances like this in which you're helping us educate others. I really appreciate that. So I just wanted to bring that. Those are just my comments. And I thank you again for hosting this room, ladies. Always love the kind of work that you're doing.
I gotta say thank you so much for sharing the education resource. It's fantastic. And anyway, thank you very much. I really appreciate the support. It keeps me going.
Excellent. Thank you, Julie. That was great. So we're closing in on the end of the hour, but if anyone has any last questions for Selene, raise your hand and we can bring you up on the stage. And if there aren't any more questions for Selene, we also wanted to open up to you just the discussion of the question that we posed to Selene at the beginning of the hour and that we posed to you, just as a way for all of us to get to know each other a little better, which is, what are you most passionate about? And what's something that you would like to share with us? So if anyone who's listening wants to raise their hand and talk about either of those things, you're welcome to come up to the stage now.
I just want to pipe up and say that I'd love to hear everyone else's passions.
I have something. I mean, I kind of said what I do already, but the reason why I started educating people on, well, mainly parents, on bullying awareness and prevention is because of a personal experience, right? As a victim when I was a child, and also as a parent who witnessed, something like that happening to my child. And when I realized one of the root causes, I felt very, I don't even have a word, but I just felt like I had to do the research and share it with as many people as possible, because the lack of ignorance that is in society is one of the reasons why so much inequality continues. And I figured if I can at least, share the knowledge that I've acquired in the field of bullying awareness and prevention, then maybe I can help create a better society, maybe just in my region. But that's what drives me, and it makes me realize how my work intersects into so many areas. And I love it when I meet people like all of you, really, who are doing such important work, and I really appreciate you all. That's all.
Thank you, Dolly. That was beautiful, and we so appreciate you. Again, for those who joined late, we would not be here today and every other Wednesday if it wasn't for Dolly and Julie and Denai connecting us with each other, introducing us to all of you, and giving us this platform to make new friends and share people's stories like Selene's with everybody. Susie came up to the stage, so Susie, please feel free to unmute and say what you'd like to say.
Hey, thank you so much. Yeah, my name's Susie Castellanos-Hansley, and I'm a life coach. And I'm also first-gen Mexicana. So, Selene, I just have really appreciated this opportunity to hear from you. I will say that I'm not I've heard of Mayans MC, but I don't have cable.
It's okay.
Waiting for it to go. Waiting for it to go to streaming. Is there?
Yeah,
Is it going to go on streaming? But
well, it's on Hulu. It streams on Hulu.
okay, good to know because I think I have Hulu. Okay.
Oh, good. I hope so. Yeah, it does stream, like, I think on the basic package. So
Okay, very good to know. Okay,
Cool.
so
Thank you.
having said that, I'm very
Cool.
excited to explore more of your work. Obviously, I love Coco. Everybody who has a human heart, and especially those of us who are Mexicanas or Latinas, that was so cool just that you got to be part of that. And I'm just really thrilled to know more about you and really explore everything you've done. I am a fan of Margaret Cho. And, she was one of the first comedians of color that was really out there when I was coming up. And so I just want to thank you for being here because I love your passion. I love the fact that you are obviously very committed to the things that matter. And I feel very akin to you in part because I am often one of those very passionate women I'm very passionate about the things that I feel have been silenced and unheard. And in my case, it does have to do with being a first gen Latina with trauma, very intergenerational trauma, early childhood trauma, all the different traumas that exist that we do not yet have enough knowledge and understanding of how to heal. And that for me having learned so many things through my own journey, my own trauma journey of healing that I now get to share with people, it is something wonderful to just be in your energy and feel motivated and inspired to keep doing what I'm doing because just, keep speaking. We all have something to offer, and especially those of us who have not been heard, it so matters for us to speak. And I just want to acknowledge you for being that. And I am so excited to continue to follow your journey in your career and your political activism and to be an ally and an advocate. And that's all I wanted to say. Muchas gracias.
Well, muchísimas gracias. Gracias, Susie. And just hearing you now speak up, I absolutely relate to your story. I also, being an immigrant, and also definitely relate to generational trauma. And I love the work that you're doing because it gives you the platform to be in a position like today to speak up. And the more we speak up, the more we're able to break those generational I get the generational trauma, and so we can help our future sisters and hermanitas and make sure they don't have to go through the things that we've experienced. So I guess the bottom line is we all got to speak up to support each other.
Well said, Selene, and that is an excellent way to end our show today. Susie, thank you for your comment, and thank you all for joining us. Selene, this was the perfect way to kick off our first show on the Amigos Network and with the Passionistas Project collaboration. And we hope you all enjoyed listening to today's show. Please follow us so you can keep in touch with us. Please reach out to us if we can do anything for you. And we hope to see you back here in a couple weeks for our next show.
And we dropped Selene's website in the comments as well so that you can all follow her on social media, follow her career on her website, and support her as much as you can.
Thank you, guys. I know we're wrapping it up. I just want to quickly say thank you so much, Amy and Nancy, for having me, and also for the work that you do. I mean, you're using your platform to create this dialogue for all of us. So thank you so very much. And I want to thank everyone who tuned in to listen today. Just thank you for taking time out of your day just to hear me out. And I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Selene.